Hey everybody, welcome to Painting for Pleasure. I'm your host, Tony Visco. And today we're going to do this nice little scene of an old shack on the dunes. So I thought maybe it would be interesting to do. We got a nice little beach scene, dunes that are out there. This old shack that's been sitting out there on the beach. And again, it might be a bit interesting to do it. It combines the idea of dunes and that nice flow and beautiful color that the dunes have with all the brush that goes on in the dunes and the dune grass and so forth, along with this interesting shack. Now, it's basically a view that's almost straight on. It's slightly, we're looking at the slight angle from this side here. And so what we're going to do is we're going to start with the sky, as I usually do, and I'm going to run some. I'm going to start that put the sky in over here, and we're going to end up with mixing up the sky. And the sky's going to be a little bit ominous, I guess. I'm going to actually create some sky on against this as I come down. We're not going to wet it like I usually do. I just wet the side, a little bit of it up here to give you a little bit of a cloud issue here. And I'm going to come down with water. And we're going to come around. I'm going to come around this stack over here. We're going to keep the stack white. So we're going to come around with this. And come up to the side, come down on the roof. We'll go right over a lot of this. And as long as I keep this wet, I should be able to come down with no problem, and it should be I shouldn't get any hard lines. So we're going to just take it. I just added a little bit of my lavender to this as I'm coming down. So it's cerulean blue. It's a little bit of cobalt blue. And then I'm going from the cobalt blue into a little bit of lavender as I come down. And I'm going to get actually the stuff that's coming down here that's going to line up on the dunes a bit. We're going to end up with a little bit darker area. Now this is sort of all wet. It's drying so quickly here, so let me just get going on this. This is all kind of wet, watery sky on a dry piece of paper down here. And so it's not like we usually do, but something that's going to create some interest. Now what I want to do is I want to create a slight cloud sort of condition. But this is nice and wet now, and this is water into water, so I should be okay with this. I'm going to sort of change up the mood a little bit and get a little bit grayer in some of these clouds. A little bit grayer by adding from some burnt sienna into my cobalt blue and getting it a little bit on the brownish side. And of course, obviously, this get some darker clouds over here by adding in some of that brown. My goodness, that ought to be very interesting. Must pick up a little bit more of that. I want all of this stuff here to be nice and cloudy. I'm going to do this wet now. And actually here, take a look, I'm really not putting much in. All I'm doing is I'm taking a little bit of a light wash on top of the wash, maybe a little bit of that burnt, this cobalt blue here, and a little bit of this burnt sienna, and you see there's not a lot in there. This is just very subtle, but it's making that major change. See this? Look at, so we have basically some clouds in the back area. I want this to be outlined here, and what I will do also, just to help this along a little bit, is I'm going to add a little bit of my opera to this. Change it up a bit, a little bit of cobalt blue as well, and get a little bit more purple or violetish. So we've got some of that up here, and this is still wet in this area, so I'm going to put some of that in there too as well. So I've got an interesting busy sky going on. Come down here now. This is hopefully what's going to happen here is we're going to end up having a dark sky, and that dark sky is going to end up against a lighter. My shack is going to be on the lighter side. I'm hoping for a lighter shack. We'll see what happens. And I want to get a little bit of brighter. What I'm doing is I'm mixing up a little bit of my Naples yellow into this, and I'm going to suggest maybe a little bit of yellow ochre here. Let's go this, a little bit of yellow ochre in some of these areas, and come in here so we have a little bit of that nice yellow in the sky too. Nice. So we'll bring this over because that shouldn't end in the right there. There you go. So that shouldn't end. So we're going to let that go, and that basically should all sort of blend together. You're going to see that it'll work out work out pretty good. But it'll be darker than what I'm trying to do over here. So let's come down into this area as well, because these are dunes. And I'm actually, what I'm doing is I'm actually putting the background in right now first. And I could, suppose I can because I can paint right over this stuff. It doesn't make any difference. So let's put a little bit of water in that. And around here, the dunes are over here as well. And we'll make the dunes in all of the dunes in the grass right now while we have the chance. And we're going to end up doing a little bit of like maroonish, reddish kind of stuff in here. We'll just give that. And again, you're going to see this. This is actually the color. Here, well, taking a little bit of this stuff in here. Look, see how light that is? Nothing. We're not doing this is not a lot of pigment. But look what happens when you put it in, of course. You know, right? So we have, let's say we have this sort of sunlight that's coming through back here. And this is all going to be, this is where my dunes are going to be. We're going to add a little bit of yellow ochre to that. And as we come down here, we're going to get a little bit deeper. Alright, a little deeper in terms of where we're going with this thing over here. And we got some nice bright stuff that's going on over here in the back area. We'll put that in there. We're going to go right over that one anyway. Okay. So what we have is some just ever so light, a little bit of, again, a little bit of opera with a little bit of Naples yellow. We're going to create some of this nice stuff that's going to happen over here. And let's see, the dunes. The dunes are in the background. There's grass in the background. They have a pretty rigid area over here. I really didn't want that. I was hoping that we'd be able to keep that nice and wet, but the way I handled this was a little bit different. Okay, so again, we're going to come down, make this a little bit sort of redder, and some cooler areas in the dunes. So we'll add a little bit of my cool. This is all going to be cool under here. All right, cool by adding a little bit of blue, as you can see. Okay, now I didn't want, again, this is a little bit heavy, this blue. I don't really, well, it's very interesting. Yeah, let's get that cool, washed down a bit. Okay, so that's underneath my house here, my shack, and we're going to come around here. We got sort of a lot of light areas. Leave some white here and there. Some bright areas that we want coming in here. Okay, so this is all nice and light. And it's going to be cooler and greener in this area here, so we're going to just add some of that nice, again, it's just nothing but cobalt blue, but very washy and and then I'm just mixing this thing very, very lightly, very light. It's an experiment here. So we got some nice yellow ochre, which we're going to put back right in here. We'll get this a little bit brighter down here, okay? Okay, so what we have, an interesting area. We got sort of an ominous kind of sky that's up in the background over there. And this is all light. So, let's pick where we want to go with this, because I'm going to start to fill in a lot of this. We'll make some of this a lot darker, a lot cooler, but I do want to get a bit of a tissue. Get some of my tissue over here, and what I'm going to do is this is going to be light over this way here, and this is going to be sort of, some of this is going to be lighter in here. So we'll pull that out. This is subtle. Just going to remove some of that wetness. Come back over here and look to this area here, for instance. We'll just let that, give that a little bit of more of a beefy, sandy, duney area. We're going to just change up the color. They're going to change this up in here. Now what I just did is I just took a little pyrrole red and added it to my yellow ochre. And because I'm going to churn this red, green. This is going to be coming at you over here. That's the dunes in the background. Same way with this over here. We're going to make this. I'm going to see if I can paint the whole thing with this brush. I'm not sure. Okay, a little bit of red. Add a little bit of blue to that. And again, the blue I'm using is cobalt blue. All right. So we know this is going to be a little bit darker in here. Some of this. Make that a bit darker. So, and we're going to end up actually bringing some of this cooler area, a little bit more blue. Let's get some more blue in there. Mix this up so it's still watery. I'm still doing this all watery. Do some of this in here. And we're going to let it, basically what we're doing is we're letting it run. Let it puddle up and run, and sort of like this will be in shadow, this whole area back here, in this area here. So what we're doing is we're just adding some cooler tones in here. Again, adding just a bit more blue. Mixing up my, yeah, just let's go back, right? A little blue, a little bit watery. Still a lot watery, actually. Because what we're really trying to do here is to just create this. We're going to turn this into dune grass. And so there'll be dune grass over here. I want all of this to play together. I want some lights and some darks. Get a little bit darker, adding more blue. And a little bit more blue, and I'm going to start to put a little bit more of the, start to build a little bit more of this weedy stuff that's over here. So this is sort of going to be dune grass, cool side. Not there though, I want that light. And I'm going to come in here now. This is again dune grass, but I want to make it darker underneath the deck. We're going to make some. So how about some brighter areas in here. Just do lightening some of this up, some of the stuff over here up a little bit. So what we're going to see is there's going to be some probably rocks or sand or something in here. And I'm drying this out, letting this wet. I want that wet. Again, darker blue. Cerulean blue. A little bit of what I did is I'm just still marrying a little bit of cerulean blue with my lavender. I didn't, a little bit too much. But here's the darker areas in here. And we'll get, you'll see, this will turn out pretty good. It's drippy. This is going to be drippy. which basically means the other thing I want to do is go back and where's my water? That old spray. Well, I guess I don't have the spray. Maybe we can put some spray in together. Let's get some water in here. Oops, whoops. Let's see if I can just, not sure if this is going to work. Add a little bit of spray to that. So I'm going to end up probably even making this even darker over here. I've got this pole. It's going to be a wooden pole, but we just want to get some light into this area right here. And just allow this to go ahead and darken up a bit. Create some interesting real darks under here. This is going to soften up, so we'll be probably chasing this. Try to make this somewhat interesting. Some interesting darks under there. Okay. Where do we go from here? Well, what do we go from here is we're going to end up putting this in a little shack over here. And do something with that. Let's go back and get my round brush here, and we'll put that in. Nice blue area. We have a shadow under this here. Do something like that. As this dries, we can start to maybe put in. We have a little bit of dune grass up here. We're going to have some dune grass coming down. And we have over here the same thing. We have dune grass that's over there. This is all this dune grass that's in here. And some dune grass that's coming around those areas, and this is all going to be interesting because we're going to end up with dune grass all in this area here. And we have some dune grass that's going to be growing right in this area down here. So this is all going to be dune grass as well. Let's get some So here we are, and we've got our piece dried. And I'm going to start to repaint this now. I had to break away for a while, so your piece may not be dry, and I understand that. So what we're going to do is continue with this, and I'm going to try to start to get more interesting pieces going here. Start to get a little bit more interest, a little bit brighter. I think I'm going to paint this. I think I'm going to paint this shack white or light anyway. Hang on for a second. So in order for me to paint this white, if I'm going to leave this light or white shack, let's say, I need to actually paint dark around it to bring that out, to make it stronger. So we're going to do that right now. We're going to come in here and we're going to actually put in some darker areas around this. Now, what I might do here is start to bring in some darker by the consistency of the paint. That is to say, my paint consistency is going to be more like cream or butter as opposed to wet now. And I'm going to get in here with stronger colors, darker colors. And we're going to start to make some of these. So assuming that most of this is going to be light, or I'm going to start to get in, or this area here in the windows. I'll have some dark windows in here, but I'm going to pretty much make a lot of this stuff white. So I actually need to come in here and make my area around this more beefier in terms of the consistency of paint. Now, one way to do it is to apply my paint on dry paper. And if I apply it on dry paper, what's going to end up happening is it's going to pretty much stay where it's at anyway. The other way to do it is to just feather it out a little bit and put some water in here. turn this a little bit darker, a little bit greener. And I'm going to do my movements. My movements on this are going to be quick strokes. These are green. This is sort of like a green. Yeah, I'll give you an idea. See this green color here? It's going to be like a mixture of my cobalt blue and my new gamboge. And then I'll probably go to a little darker, but this'll give you some idea. I want some of this to be feathered. That is to say, I want some of this to be soft. So I'm going to come in here and wet this, and we're gonna leave some light area because I'm gonna lighten up down in this area here a bit. As if, because this is going to be dark over here, I want that to remain light. I want some of that to remain light. And I'm going to do the same thing with regard to some of this over here where it cuts into the house, because if this is going to be on the lighter side, I need something that's nice and dark there. So essentially what we're doing is reversing the process. This is going to be dark over here, so I'm going to leave that a little bit light over there, and I'm going to make this dark, so I'm going to start to bring in some light green over here, wash it in. Again, what I'm really doing is just trying to give you the feeling of light against dark. Dark against light, light against dark. And you're going to find that I'm going to do all these sort of sweepy kind of things that are going to be indicative of grass. Make it colorful. As it comes down, some of this is going to be darker. Same thing over here. We have now again, some of it, as I said before, some of it I'm putting in with water. For instance, I'll come over here and I'm going to take all of this area here and we're going to wet this. Alright, we'll wet that all over there. We're going to start to wet some of this over here, and I'm going to start to flow some darker values, warms and cools, darker values. And may even get darker than this. We'll see. But we do want darker values. And super dark values are going to be all these are not even dark enough under here. My head, I'm standing to the side of the camera so that I don't don't put my head in there. What I'm trying to do is get this nice and dark. And that's wet, but now I'm coming into a dry area. And I want to give the impression that lighter sawgrass is moss grass, what do you call it? Dune grass is entering the picture over here. So we have some structure underneath that. So again, if this is going to be all light, my interest is to create dark areas and we'll make some of these areas down here super dark. Okay. And I'm coming over here. This stuff that's going on back there. Don't know what it is, but call it some light area. Let's bring in some change up a value, change up some tone. Now as this dries, I'm putting a little bit more, dark, warmer darks, the reds and the browns, keep it nice and warm. Again, a little bit redder over here. Some orange. Let's get some. Before I do the final, the work on the grass itself, I'm just putting in some basic shapes here, which I see as plausible grass. Sweeping. I'm just sweeping that over there. And some of the same things up here. Okay. That'll end up, I'll darken that up as well. Change that around a bit. Okay, so I'm starting to form some shape over here. And maybe what we need too is a little bit more of a contour. Coming down here. And maybe a little sweep down here. That can be done, actually that can be done with my blue. Cool it down a bit. Alrighty. And we have this always sweeping grass over here. There's nothing to say you have to actually copy. Remember, there's nothing to say that we actually have to copy the photograph that we're working from. Exactly. I mean, what I see is a lot of twigs and a lot of stuff going on, but I want to change up a lot of this so that some of it is cool, some of it is warm. But we get the feeling, the general feeling of grass. Some of it is green, some of it is yellow. Let's say okay. So what I'm going to do right now is just clean my palette. Hey, before I even do that, let's just do something else here. I'm not nuts about what's going on over here, so we're just going to put a tonal value in here. I want that subdued. Something's there, but I want it set back. Okay, so what I'm going to do right now is just clean up my palette and then start to put in a little bit more of the stuff that I've got to put in up in the house area. So, where do we want to go? Let's get a small brush. Let me get this small brush. What I'd like to do right now is just take my windows, and we're going to just actually come over here, and I'm just going to put a little water in my window area here. I'm going to put a little tone in here. I'm going to try to keep my head out of the camera, so bear with me for a second. With just a little bit of blue tone, cool tone, just so I can see what I'm doing. It doesn't have to be everywhere. Just so that I know where my windows are going to be. The glazing of the windows is what I'm talking about, not the actual glass is what I'm suggesting here. It's where the actual glass is. I don't want what I don't want is consistency. That is to say, I don't want all of this stuff the same value. Some of it's going to be darker, some of it's going to be lighter. So I'm putting my light stuff in first. I have my windows in there. I'm going to make them a little bit darker. Okay. Now remember, it's a watercolor. The shapes, some of the shapes may be, it's not, this is not perfection. In terms of placement, but it has to be convincing. And so there's going to be lights and darks. Some of them, there's going to be some lighter areas, some darker areas in the windows themselves. I also want to put in right down in this area a brighter color. There's something that's down here, and I'm going to do that right here as well. This is the back of the seat. To give it some brightness. And you know what I'm going to do is maybe a red chair. Got a red. Well, I'll put it in later. Let me do the other stuff first. Okay, so I've got where my windows are going to be. Dark. What I want is what I'm trying for anyway, is a variety in the windows, a variety of values, so that they're not necessarily all dark. Okay. All right, windows, window variations of value in the windows. Variations of value in the windows. Now this would go across here because this is a sash. Here's a sash right here, so that would be a dark area going across here, and the windows would be in here. Let me just change this value up, make some of these a little bit lighter. Redder maybe. Hey, how about that? Again, some of them are bluer. I'm just trying to give this a variety, some variation in terms of the brilliance of these, and how they are set up. So here's my windows in the house. You can start to see them. You see some of them are lighter, some of them are darker. And we're going to do this here. Those thin lines are actually windows, but we really can't see them. Okay. And we have an eave over here hanging, right? And we have the underside. I'm doing this. This is all being done right now. This is just all being done with my rigger. The underside of that. And then we have a dark area under here. Now this is dry. I mean, the painting, the actual paper right now that I'm working with is I'm painting wet onto dry. Okay. And it looks like I did something here. I'll have to fix that in a minute, because that's again the danger of going back in with laying this stuff on top of the paper. This is not a I need to do Let's put this over here. Don't like what was there. Didn't like that at all. Okay. Now, let's get the shadow underneath. Okay, shadow. Shadow. Shadow there. It's just water. Okay, shadow there, shadow up here, small one, small one, and a little bit of a shadow here too. A little bit of a shadow here from the eave on this here. And we have bit of a shadow there. We have a little bit of a shadow under here. And forget, I'm gonna have to come around this side here and do this, because there's definitely a shadow here, and it's a good size shadow, and that shadow is going to end up having, it's going to change value from here, hit the peak up there, make that a little darker. This is a lot darker under here. I'm going to make this a little bit darker. Actually, it's going to make it a lot. I'm going to make it a lot darker. This is just black, but we'll deal with that. Alright, so this is a white house. It's going to stand out as a white house. It's lighter on this side. And I think what I want to do is make this darker. I'll come in here. With my door. Okay. All right. Now, let's get this sort of interesting. Let's say maybe we have some paint on here. It's again, White House. So my deck, over here. Let's just look, and we're going to mix this all up. What we're doing is we're mixing a little bit of my cerulean blue, no, cobalt blue, I'm sorry, in with my opera. I'm getting this. I'm going to make this a little warmer too, by the way, but just getting my base shadow in here. I want that nice and dark there. And we're going to end up having this darker here. So my door is going to be, let's say we have a inset here on the door and a slight inset here. We're going to make the door a little bit on the red side, I think. Okay, so we have this weathered red door. And we're going to end up over here with a little bit lighter, taking Naples yellow here to lighten this area, to put a little bit more value here. And a little bit more value, not much, but a little bit more value here. Okay. Now, we've got a nice white house. Let's do this. Let's make this chair. Let's call it the red chair. Okay. We're going to come in here with a little bit of burnt sienna. Not burnt umber, but burnt sienna. The house might be white, but let's call the deck is not going to be, at least the side of that deck is not going to be white. And the deck ends, the wood, okay, so what we're doing here is we're making the ends of our, it's the wood, this is where the wooden deck sticks out, I guess. Well, let's go back, make this a little darker under here. A little darker where those boards hang over. Okay, that looks pretty good so far. Let's go back to a little bit more shadow here and a little bit more shadow there. Let's say we have a little sign up here, so we have a little shadow underneath that. A little shadow underneath that. Now I need to put a darker shadow underneath the eave. At least I feel as though I have to put a darker shadow underneath that. Okay. Now we also have shadows. Where else? Well, we have an eave here. We have a sill here, so we have to have a shadow underneath that. Should have a shadow over here. There should be a shadow under here. And perhaps maybe underneath that. Underneath that. Okay, so the door is going to be a little darker. Again, shadow. And we're going to put our final stuff in right now with a small brush. I think that's more oval, more of an oval shape. See if I can widen this a bit. Yeah. And shingles. Shingles on the top of the roof. My shingles coming down the roof. Shingles there. Okay, oh yes, we have one. We have one here too, don't we? And we have, this is going to be dark. Okay. Couple of things hanging on that clothesline. Pole there, and I'm going to do, this is just a little white pole here. This chair is darker under here. You need to ground that chair. We'll let that dry out. Okay, my house is done, pretty much. Now let's go back and just do some of this some of this grassy structure. And this is just the linear stuff that I'm putting in here. My pole, shadow side, I guess. Why is there a pole there? Who knows? I have no idea. Because compositionally, I think we needed one. We needed something over here to hang in there. All right. I think that'll do. That'll do fine. Just get a little shadow over here along this side. And a little more shadow in some of these areas here. Okay, let's call that pretty much where we want to be. This is all bramble, brush, twigs, weed. It's all kind of crap stuff over here. There's just nothing but just keep going over and over this stuff. But you get the idea. Anyway. So that's it. Thank you for being with me. I appreciate your time that you're spending with me to go through this process. I'm your host, Tony Visco, and see you next time.